Wake up, wake up. The 49ers play on Thursday night, and it's another gotta have it game, and that's only one sleep away. So we better get to it right now.
Wednesday, December 11th. We are just getting closer and closer to the holidays, and we are officially as close to the 49ers season beginning or ending as we can possibly get, because what happens tomorrow is the year. It either continues to live and breathe or it sort of dies right in front of us. And you cannot find a bigger 49ers game since the Super Bowl than what we've got coming up from Levi's Stadium on Thursday night. Larry, good morning. Welcome, everyone, to Wake Up. Welcome to Sam's Chowder House, as always, our sponsor of Wake Up. Good to see so many people in here. Great to have you back. And I think you all know this is monster. You're all going to have an awesome show, says Travis Stewart. I can feel it. I think Travis said that he lost someone in his family. His grandfather might have just passed away. So sorry to hear that. It's been a rough week for me too. And, the nice thing about sports is it lets you, distract yourself from some of your real world blues. And 49ers, we need you to distract us with a win over the LA Rams and keep distracting us for the rest of the year. It's go time, Larry. Here it is.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. This is another gotta have it game. There's no, it's funny. It's like, can the 49ers pull this off? I mean, that's really the question. Can the 49ers pull this off? They waited and waited and waited and waited to really start feeling that desperation. George Kittle said, we needed to play desperate. Brock Purdy spoke to the team Saturday before the game. I asked him yesterday. I said, Brock, there's been an awful lot of talk about them, why Shanahan and Lynch chose you and Demo Lenore. John said they're gritty. Kyle said they're authentic. So we got a pretty good idea of why they were chosen to speak to the team. But nobody ever asked these guys, like, what the hell did you guys say? I mean, everybody's made a big deal about this. So I finally asked him yesterday. I said, Brock, what did you say? And he's like, well, I don't want to give all the details. But basically, I just said to the guys, hey, look, last year we just were one game at a time. Every game was our Super Bowl. We didn't get caught looking down the road. We weren't looking towards our playoff seeding and how it looked and what needed to happen and who needed to do this or that. We just played. We focused on our opponent. He's like, we need to play with that urgency, that desperation, that if we win, we're moving on. If we lose, we're going home. We had that at the end of the year. We've lost that. We haven't played with that urgency. And I thought overall, I think that's, if you said what happened in this Bears game, no, the Bears are bad and Caleb's young and, there's other circumstances here. But the 49ers on their end played very, very hard.
Yeah.
Flew around on defense, especially at linebacker. And you know what? That's what it's going to take. That's what they're going to have to do that every single week.
Right. Competition. The team that you're playing is a variable that's changing week to week. What you can control is how you go out and play. And so many times we've watched the 49ers just play a brand of football that didn't remind us of 49ers football. The Bears game reminded us of what the 49ers look like when all systems are go, when it's really firing. So a sign of good things to come or totally dependent on an inferior opponent. Again, we find out tomorrow, because I'm not saying a superior opponent, but a much better than Chicago. LA Rams team is coming in here. Obviously, familiarity, the division opponent, it all breeds contempt and all things like that. Plus, you've got the Rams who need this game as much as the 49ers need it. They're in better position, and they're just as desperate to have it than the 49ers are. So it really is set up to be one of the best Thursday night football games of the year. If you're looking for some gravity and some weight to the game, it comes with all of that. If you're looking for a couple of hot quarterbacks going into the game, you can't find two quarterbacks who had a better Sunday just last week than Stafford and Purdy. Both of them were on their A games for 4 solid quarters. So you got 2 hot quarterbacks, 2 gots-to-have-it football teams, and it doesn't get any better than that. Christmas done come early. And the 49ers better put this one under the tree. They have to have it It's going to be a lot of fun. Larry, I'm going to do a watch party. Hopefully you and I will be able to hop on, do a little post game together tomorrow night as well. It's that big of a game. So I know we'll be working extra time and overtime and staying up late. And then we'll be right back on Friday morning with another version of Wake Up, brought to you by Sam's Chowder House as well. So a busy 3 days for everyone associated with the 49ers.
Well, it's also, I kind of like it because it's a little bit of a break. Like normally today I'd be in I'd be doing this show and then quickly going to Santa Clara for another big day. We did all of the media on Tuesday. So you're talking about, a little bit of an off day today, tomorrow's game day, so it's a different week for sure. I don't know how these players do it, Damon. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, these guys played football on Sunday.
It's got to be a lot of ice baths and hot tubs and massages, and you get some maybe.
They do have a bunch of rest and rejuvenation machines. They've got a what is it, like a red room that's like infrared that helps their regenerative abilities. There's hot tubs, cold tubs.
Who on the team is into acupuncture? There's always one guy who's really into it. Who is this year's acupuncturist?
I don't know who actually gets acupuncture. I don't know if they actually do that on site, but they do. They definitely have like massage therapists and a bunch of massage tables, and they've invested fully in helping their players take care of their bodies. As far as this game goes, to me, I think I stumbled on something looking at a bunch of information for this game that I think is the key in this game. If you just look at Stafford's football card, his game log for the year, right? You can just look at the individual performances and just isolate Stafford and go all the way from, week 1 against the Lions, September 8th to, December 8th, last week against Buffalo. Look at all those games. And then you go over to the sack column and you look at the sacks, and then you go back and look where they won and where they lost. And what you're going to find is that when you sack Matthew Stafford, you beat the Rams. And when you don't sack Matthew Stafford, he beats you. I'm just looking at his wins this year. The Niner game was the only game where he had 3 sacks, where he was sacked 3 times and they actually won. And the Niners had a big lead in the second half of that game and probably should have finished it. But if you look at the other games, lost to the Bears, sacked 3 times. Lost to the Pack, sacked 3 times. Then won a couple games. He was sacked once, 0-0. Then he gets to the Miami game. They lose that game. He was sacked 4 times. Then they win the next week against New England. He wasn't sacked at all. Then they play Philly the next week. He gets sacked 5 times. They lose by 17. Then they played the last 2 weeks against New Orleans and Buffalo. He wasn't sacked at all. Or he was sacked twice against New Orleans, I should say, but none against Buffalo. And they won both those games. So if you pressure Matthew Stafford and you can sack him, he will throw you some picks and you can beat him. If you don't, you won't. He won't throw you picks and you won't beat him. And they didn't go against Puka or Kupp in the first matchup and they lost. So now there's Puka and Kupp. Those guys combined last week for like 17 catches for like 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, these guys are absolutely the hottest duo in the game right now. And if the Niners can't put pressure on Stafford, it's game, set, match, season. Thanks for coming.
You got to move him off his spot, Larry. In a weird way, it's funny. Stafford and Goff, who got exchanged for each other, are similar in the same way. If they got a pocket, they will carve you up from that pocket. You got to move them off their spots. Neither of these guys is particularly mobile. Neither likes to throw while they're on the move. So making life uncomfortable for Matthew Stafford, yeah, it's non-negotiable. You got to do it. Now, that brings me right to Nick Bosa and what you've seen down there this week, Larry. Do you think he goes? I know he was, a limited, or was he out yesterday in practice?
He was out.
Out. Do you think we might see him? I don't.
They said we might have seen him last week, so I got to think he's getting closer. He's got 2 injuries. He's got the hip injury and he's got the oblique. I don't know which is the worst one. My guess is the oblique because he seemed to not be moving once he had the oblique well at all.
Remember, with core injuries that took away time from him at Ohio State too. So,
Yeah, he was asked about that though this week, and he says it's a totally different injury. Whatever his core was there is different than the oblique strain he's got now. So I'm not sure if that meant that he was higher up, like in the rib cage, more
But what it
abdominal
means
or
now
what.
is he used to be softcore, now he's hardcore, Larry. Hardcore.
But either way, I mean, last week the Niners got the best D line performance they've gotten all year. Floyd is really playing. Yatir Gross-Matos just played his best game. He had 3 sacks. He's never had a season with more than 4.5, and he had 3 in one game.
Yeah.
Sam O's batting down passes, playing well. Collins is playing well. So their D line is starting to play, but I mean nothing can replicate Nick Bosa. So
right.
I think he gets out there. But I definitely think he gets out there by Miami. But I think he's going to get out there on Thursday night.
And the big question for Thursday night, which would, what it actually does for the Niners on the field will be revealed when we get to watch it. But just from this guy's a tempo setter, this guy changes the temperature of every room he walks into and every huddle he leans into. Dre Greenlaw, if Dre Greenlaw can show up on Thursday night, that puts an extra bounce in everybody's defensive step. I really think that guy will be a bolt of electricity and almost okay, everybody, let me show you all how tackling looks. You seem to have forgotten a little bit while I've been off the field. I'll show you guys what a real tackling machine looks like. And if Dre Greenlaw can come back, I just think that's not only a value add as a player, but a just huge temperature change in the room. He's so intense. He is their violence defensively. And if he would come back this week, it would just be huge.
And I don't think it's going to happen. They lean toward last week. They were like, we're like when before they even opened his practice window, they said, hey, you know what? If they bring him back, it's going to be towards the back end of his practice window. They're going to be extra careful. So then they were like, well, maybe he'll play against Chicago. He didn't play. Well, maybe he'll play against the Rams. And they made it seem like Matt Barrows asked Kyle, was there a setback? Kyle's like, no, there's been no setback. But they definitely seem to not be pointing towards Thursday and pointing more towards the Miami game. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just precautionary. Maybe he's still feeling some after effects, but they said that there's been no setback, but that, he may not go in this game.
Well, then hopefully it's next week and win this week and unveil him in Miami, for goodness sakes. It sounds like Yatir Gross-Matos was walking off the field in that Bears game, and he was like, first win of the year. In other words, I think the 49ers told themselves that their playoffs have already begun, and that Bears game was a playoff game for them. And that means this game is a playoff game for them. They are in playoff mode the rest of the way. They really can't afford to lose another football game. They all know it. So whoever can go, please go, because now is the time. And that brings us to Isaac Guerendo, who, had the best game of his young career just this past weekend. A foot injury left his, immediate return in doubt. Larry, what do you think of Guerendo? Or is this going to be the Patrick Taylor, we hardly know you, but it's your show now show?
He's got a foot sprain. Shanahan erroneously, I think, might have called it an ankle sprain at one point yesterday. But I think it's a foot sprain. I think he just misspoke. But I don't know to what degree, and I don't know what pain there is with it. I've never had a foot sprain, and so I don't know. I get the sense from the way it's being talked about and just seeing Guerendo standing and walking around the locker room, I would say he's going to go. He's definitely going to try to go. They need him. They absolutely need him because Taylor's more of a special teamer. Keyshawn Vaughn is a solid NFL back, but doesn't have that spectacular gear. And Abanaconda's only been in the building for a few days.
Right. They
really need Guerendo.
There's no, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like Kyle can't be waiting for his perfect running back because the 3 guys that he looks for perfection are all unavailable. So you got to just go with what you have. And that sounds like an awful lot of Patrick Taylor. If, what are you going to ask Debo to run the ball 10 times? That sounds like a really good way to lose to the Rams.
Well, they probably will, actually. That's the other thing. It's like I look at that as a bad idea because Debo goes for about 2.6 a carry, but they may look at it as an opportunity to get Debo more touches. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Debo's been complaining, so maybe this is their way to get him more touches. I definitely think you're going to see Debo running the ball, which I don't get because he's not. It's been totally ineffective. But I definitely think you're going to see it. I mean, I think Debo might be Shanahan's favorite player. They're going to try to get Debo going any way possible. So it's probably going to be handing him the ball. But to me, I want to see Garendo because Garendo's got the home run hitting capability. And if it's not Garendo, give me a lot of Keyshawn Vaughn. Give me a lot of. I think Keyshawn Vaughn or Abanaconda might be better options than Patrick Taylor. But Patrick Taylor is a big body guy. He knows the offense. He can catch the ball. So it's going to be a committee. Either way, it's going to be a committee deal.
We'll see. We'll see. There's just, or maybe it is. Brock is throwing this football 35, 45 times. The 49ers are going to want to control some tempo. The Rams stayed on the field all day long against the Buffalo Bills. They ran 42 times, I think it was. So McVay, even though he wasn't having a lot of success with the run, he committed to it. They're going to try to limit 49ers touches and opportunities. So they're going to have to do something with the ball when they got it, man. They're probably going to have fewer possessions in this game than they've had the last few weeks, because I'm guessing that's Sean McVay's game plan, just to keep the ball away from this offense. Now, let's talk about Debo and what the hell he did this week and why he chose this week to go on social media. And, I think Shanahan even said something like, when the whole world's criticizing you, it's a little tough to remain silent. You got a podcast, dude. You don't need to be tweeting and Instagramming. And if you are going to do that, you better have something better than no. It's not me, it's you. And that's what basically Debo came public with this week. Debo said, I am state of the art still, and my lack of production has nothing to do with me or my ability to separate. I'm just not getting the ball, which is a huge turnaround. And fuck you guys to Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy and the rest of the offense. And it's immature and it's irresponsible. And it's the sort of thing that when you put it in the public wind, you see the media just starting to grab it, wanting to run with it as a story. Look at what's happening in Philadelphia right now with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, right? You got two guys who are playing really well in a good season, and it's like they're working to take the success away from their own locker room for whatever dick measuring contest, ego-ridden nonsense is going on in that Philadelphia Eagles locker room. Like, Debo, you could have, in a week where no one needed a bomb going off, you could have set off a bomb. And that brings me to Brock Purdy. What a mature young man who was a bomb diffuser this week. Because when asked about it, what did Brock say? He's right. I got to get him the ball more. Didn't try to pass off any responsibility. Just said, yeah, Debo's right. When we all know Debo's wrong. We all know he's wrong. We all watch. We all see the numbers. We all know that when it comes to running away from corners, they stay in your hip pocket, dude. So Brock Purdy had one of his best weeks at the podium of his entire career this week. For him to not give in or take any bait that just was waiting there for him, that's why he's worth $55 million. Because he's not about to get into a public dick measuring contest with a guy who, again, what's the nickname we gave Debo earlier this season? Mr. Once a Month? Hey, hopefully this week, it's his 1 week this month where he does something for the 49ers. But, man, Brock showed you what maturity looks like, and the Niners needed him. It was a great week for Brock.
Yeah, I mean, he nobody expected him to throw Debo under the bus or start some kind of What? He said it was me? I'm saying it's him.
Right.
Could you imagine if he can't hit the podium and was like, this guy is slow as hell. This guy is slow as hell. That would have been amazing. For those who didn't hear what Brock said, here is what Brock said. Here's Brock yesterday addressing the whole Debo thing. And let me rewind it. Here it is. A little Brock Purdy yesterday on the podium.
Debo hasn't had production he's used to in the last month or so. And he said on social media yesterday he's not struggling, he's just not getting opportunities. As the quarterback or captain, teammate, do you feel the need to talk to him, just make sure you know where his head's at?
I mean, Debo and I talk all the time, and he's like one of my best friends on this team. Like, I absolutely love Debo and what he's done for me and helping me out. We talk all the time. And, yeah, I think he's right. Like, he's doing great right now with what we ask of him in the offense, and he's not struggling. Like I've said before about, like guys like Ricky or last year with Ayuk for a little bit. Like, there's just moments, I guess, throughout seasons where, guys just don't get the ball, just depending on like scheme or like what the defensive scheme is and, them taking guys away. So I want to get Debo the ball every play if I could. I want to have him break all the records as best as possible. I want Debo to do Debo things, and we all do in this building. So it's just how the games have gone. But I love my guy, and I'm going to do everything I can to, give him the ball. So
I love my guy. That was basically, that whole thing could have been summed up right there with I love my guy. He just doesn't want there to be any controversy. And Brock makes everything seem totally innocent. Like, it's just the way the offense works and the ball finds you, the ball goes away from you. But that can be true. I mean, we all know that can be true for a game or two or three, right. You know what I mean? But it tends to even out. There's no such thing as the awesome receiver who makes no catches. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't gaslight me and tell me, Ricky's really having a great year. Shut up. Stop it. I don't want to hear it. He's played for a month. He has one catch in a month. So you know what I mean? You want to back your guy, fine. But then the rest of us are more than capable to just say, hey, he's not speaking truth. He's backing his guy. So that would be my sentiment to Shanahan and to Purdy. I'm happy that Shanahan and Purdy are backing their guy. Just don't gaslight me and tell me that we're all wrong and that this guy hasn't lost a step when he used to average like 8 yards a carry. He's averaging like 2 yards a carry.
Dude, Debo has 16 catches since Halloween.
Yeah.
He's 16 catches since Halloween. 16 catches since Puka Nacua will probably have 16 catches on Thursday night. You know what I mean? Like, there's the guy's had 16 catches since Halloween. He has 1 touchdown on the year. This isn't teams have gotten onto you. They figured out a way after much success to shut you down. This is a season's worth of evidence of massive decline. Deebo Samuel has the type of production that is usually reserved for the 4th wide receiver who hardly plays in most offenses. That's what he's been this year. He's not a number 1. He's not a number 2. He's not an X. He's not a Y. He's not a Z. He's not an LMNOP.
Why would you hand it to him? I mean, here, the stat that if you want to say what's the most defining stat, if you just want to break away everything else and just get right to the chase, it's running backs average per carry. There's nothing ambiguous about any of that. Jordan Mason, 5.2 a carry. Isaac Guerrero, 5.7 a carry. Christian McCaffrey, 4 yards a carry. Patrick Taylor, 3.6 a carry. Kyle Juszczyk, 5 yards a carry. Deebo Samuel, 2.9 yards per carry. Why would I hand it to you when I can hand it to guys who do more with it? Why?
Yeah. I mean, you might as well turn around and hand the ball to Kyle Juszczyk. He doesn't do much with it either. But I would expect him to do maybe a little bit more just to catch everybody by surprise than Deebo. The minute Deebo Samuel is in the backfield, the entire play's basically been telegraphed. If he's back there, he's getting it, and everyone knows it.
So that's the average, okay? So then people would say, well, your reason, Krug, that you would hand it to Deebo is big playability. Okay, let's take a look at the long run for the year. Jordan Mason's longest run, 38 yards. Isaac Guerrero's longest run, 76 yards. Christian McCaffrey's longest run in 4 games that he played, 19 yards. Ricky Pearsall's longest run, 39 yards. Kyle Juszczyk's longest run, 14 yards. Deebo Samuel's longest run, 12 yards. So don't tell me about the big playability. It doesn't exist, at least not as a runner.
No. And, look, some uniforms bring out the very, very best in guys. We talked about that. Debo has historically played well against the LA Rams. So maybe this is Mr. once a month to show up. And if it is, that's great, because the Niners sure could use it. But the consistency that Debo says he is, willing to offer to this team anytime they're willing to throw it to him, that's like, check yourself, dude. Like, quit talking to some girl that nobody's heard of on your podcast ever. No one's listening to this podcast, dude. No one gives a shit about it. There's nobody listening to your podcast, Debo, who's not in the Bay Area media just looking for something stupid to say that they can then turn around and play on their show. So
George Kittle has more yards after the catch than Debo.
Well, George Kittle is a Hall of Fame greatest 49er of all time level type of player. I'm not surprised by that. There's very few guys who will ever play for the Niners who are better than George Kittle. But this is one of those things too. Like, Puka Nacua might have 16 catches tomorrow night. We all know right now that there is zero chance George Kittle will have 16 catches tomorrow night. You know what I mean? Like, Sean McVay will find something that's working, and like a stray dog, he will continue to attack it and hump it, and he'll be all over it. As long as you're giving it to him, he'll take it. Can we get a 10-catch game for George Kittle?
I mean, he had one in this last game.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He was spectacular in his last game. See if that can carry over into this game. Feed Kittle early. Look for him on the second play of the first drive, and then come back to him on the third play of the first drive if the second play popped. Like, feed what is working for you. And that is one of the frustrations I just had with Shanahan, not in this year, but in all the Shanahan years. It feels like going with the hot hand isn't that much of a strategic choice you'd have to talk a coach into. But it feels like Shanahan almost needs to be talked into going with his hot hand, unless it belongs to Christian McCaffrey, in which case he'll run that dude into the ground, So
they just forget about George. I mean, they forget about George in the passing game. It's unbelievable if you think about it. This George Kittle has 40 less receptions than Travis Kelce. 40. That's way, way, way too much meat on the bone. And it would be one thing if everybody was running, but everybody's not running. CMC's missed the whole year. Ayuk's missed a month now. Ricky Pearsall was shot and hasn't done anything. It's not like they've got all these other weapons and George Kittle, they just don't need him. They need him desperately, and they've targeted him under 5 times, like 5 different games this year. This guy needs to be targeted between 7 to 12 times per game. And he's being, how many times he's been targeted 7 to 12 times per game this year? Once, twice, 3, 4 times. 4 times all year. He's gotten 7 or more targets. I understand, Kelsey's more of a receiver. Kittle's a tremendous blocker. But I mean, when you don't have your other weapons, especially since this guy's money in the red zone, you can't have red zone struggles and George Kittle with 40 less receptions than Travis Kelce. Throw him the ball. Get him in the pattern. Use him.
I'm not even kidding. Tight end around. Let him run the ball. I'd rather see George Kittle's next rushing attempt than Deebo Samuel's. So, look, Kyle's got nothing left to do this year than empty out the freaking playbook. And I did think that for the first time all season long, we really got, hey, Kyle and Brock are just in sync today. Maybe it was the Bears. Maybe it's them finally turning the corner as a team that has found the desperation point in the year to be the catalyst to make them play their best football. But they got to have it Thursday night against the Rams. And I'm just telling you right now, Kyren Williams will take over this game and beat you by himself if you're not up to tackle him. He is having a really good year, Larry. He's better than I thought he was. He really is. Kyren Williams is already over 1,000 rushing yards this season. And Jared Verse is in the defensive rookie of the year conversation. He's been fantastic for the Rams. So you keep those two guys from having big games. You turn the Rams over a little bit. I think the 49ers can win this game. I really do. I think that I saw enough last week to where I'll suspend my disbelief and just give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, it's your experience, your know-how, your veteran nature of your team has to reveal itself at some point in the year here, or it won't. It feels like it did a little bit against Chicago. Now we're going to find out if it's really here or not. So I'm very excited. I haven't looked this forward to a 49er game kicking off really all year. Like you said, it makes the whole week go by super fast. It's like a week of football on steroids. And then we get the weekend off, kind of, Larry. We like, what do you plan on doing with your Sunday? Christmas shopping?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure my wife will have me all kinds of things for me to do. Just there's no, when you have 4 kids, there's no end to the number of things you have to do as far as shopping and everything else, driving, chauffeuring, picking people up, vehicles that are breaking, how the latest is our oven went out, so we got a new oven.
Oh,
but the refrigerator is blocking the entrance to the kitchen. So now we're either going to have to figure out, we're going to have to take the refrigerator door off the refrigerator or somehow do some tap dance where we move the refrigerator out and move the, so we can move the oven in, all the while not scratching the hardwood floors.
Sounds fun.
So yeah, it's
a lot of
fucking
fun.
nightmare. It's a nightmare. So I got that going on. But I'll say this: the 2 areas I'm looking for on. Of course, is Garendo going to play? Is Bosa going to play? There's some injuries that we're looking for, but the 2 areas I'm looking for where the Niners just have to be better, or they're not going to win this game, is third down and red zone. They're giving up 43.9% conversions on third down. That's 27th in the NFL. You can't win if you can't get off the field defensively. That's one. And then 2, the Niners are allowing a 72%. They're allowing touchdowns 72.1% of the time in the red zone. That's the second worst in the league, 31st in the league, which is just amazing.
They had that streak, the stretch of 9 trips in a row, all turned into. That number did get skewed.
11. It was 11 for 11 in the last 3 games. Until the Bear game. Yeah. But still though, that's, you can't be that bad in those 2 areas. So those are the areas right there. They're going to have to be able to get off the field. And if you ask Sorensen about this last game, because they did a great job getting off the field against the Bears, but he and if you look at it, everybody made a play on third down. And one time it's Collins, one time it's Floyd, next time it's Gross Matos. Every time the Niners got the Bears to 3rd and long, the Niners defense made a big sack, big play. They sacked Caleb 7 times. They got off the field. But when Sorensen was asked about it, he's like, I really think it was more about what we did on 1st and 2nd down. So, either way, they're just going to have to make sure that the thing that makes the Rams so tough is they're going to run Kyron, and they don't care what it produces. Like, they are going to run Kyron, and if he produces 1 yard, so be it. Produces 2 yards, so be it. What their goal is to get to like 3rd and 6 or less, and then have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua run little stop routes, and only they and Stafford know where they're going, and they're little timing routes. There's nothing to them, but it's almost impossible to defend. So you can't get off the field because they're just going to do up. He's going to run 3 yards and turn around and flip his hips, and the ball's already going to be released. And so it's like, it's going to be a huge challenge for the 49ers to hug up on these receivers, Puka and Kupp, and then back off of Atwell, who burned them for the vertical, bomb in the last game. So, they got 2 guys who can run, Robinson and Atwell. They got 2 guys who can not really run, but they're great catching the ball. So you got 2 receivers you got to be absolutely in the hip pocket, and you got 2 receivers you got to give a lot of room to. It's going to be a very, very difficult task.
Yeah, you cannot, Nacua, Kupp, and Atwell it's as long of a day as any secondary is going to face in football, especially if it's a day where like, oh, Stafford's got all of his time and he's got a pocket, and now you're in trouble. Now the Rams have won, what is it, 6 of their last 8. Here's the deal. They're averaging 23 points per game, but they have given up 24 points in 4 of their last 6 games. So their defense is a little vulnerable. And I would just, if you're Shanahan, I want to see the same type of mentality that he employed against the Bears, where if it's 4th and short and you are, kind of in Jake Moodyville, run a play. Don't send out your kicker. Run a play. I'd rather you fail on 4th and 1 aggressively than add 3 points in a game where the Rams are going to be hunting 7 points every possession. So
the Rams just scored 40. Don't be kicking field goals. You start kicking field goals, you're going to lose. And here's the other weirdo stat. The Niners this year have yet to win a game that they didn't lead. When the Niners are 0-4 when their opponent scores first. They're one of only 4 teams
that
hasn't
hasn't won
won.
games where you never have a lead, right?
But I mean, only 4 teams in the league haven't won when their opponent scores first. The Niners are one of them. And the other one is turnovers. The Rams in the last 4 games have 1 turnover. The 49ers in the last 4 games have 8 turnovers. All right. So you can't turn the ball over and beat this team. You really can't turn it over and win, but it's even exacerbated more when your opponent is not turning it over. So they're going up against an opponent who doesn't recently. And if the Niners want to win, they better take care of the football.
Well, and look, and the Rams ran a fake punt against the 49ers earlier in the year. I don't know if that makes them more or less likely to do it in the rematch game, but just expect anything from Sean McVay. He will try to, I think, in this game, steal a possession if his defense hasn't forced a turnover. And again, the Niners do have to play a clean 4-quarter game to win this game. I don't know how they beat the Rams with an awful lot of mistakes on their own side. So they just don't have that level of talent anymore. Unless Debo's going to just finally get somebody to give him the ball because he's been so wide open all year long. So we'll see. It's an absolute huge one. A little business, Larry, that the 49ers conducted this week is kind of interesting. You tell me what it's a harbinger of to come. A massive restructuring of Javon Hargrave has been reported, and his salary got converted from about $20 million down to about $2.1 million. His cap number shrinks significantly from about $30 million down to about $10 million. So it sounds like someone's either going to come back on a very reasonable deal or will be subject to being cut on June 1st. Do you think Hargrave is long for the 49ers? Do you think that he put enough on tape for them to even be curious about bringing him back at a reduced price? Or are they so disappointed with the lack of impact that he's made that they just, at this point, they'd like to walk away?
I don't know. I don't know how to read this one. Shanahan's like, hey, we want him here. But to me, it seems like they're setting him up to cut him after June 1st.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. I would say there is no world where they can afford Hargrave and to extend Purdy, and they seem intent on extending Purdy this offseason. So I don't think those two things probably can peacefully coexist. My guess is that Hargrave's he's already played his last days with the Niners. That'd be my guess.
Probably. Christopher says a Sam's Chowder House time for Debo. Yeah, we have not given Debo a lobster roll yet this year. He has not even come close to, I don't even think he's earned a mussel. Larry, have we given a single clams casino to Debo this year?
There'll be no oysters, Debo feller.
No.
I mean, I like Debo. I think Debo plays for the right reasons. I think he's a team guy, but he doesn't sound like a team guy when he says, I'm not getting the ball and it's not my fault. He sounds like a guy who's dodging accountability and dodging blame and trying to create something out of nothing. And it's like, but athletes' egos are very, 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 I don't know, fragile. And a lot of times,
a lot of
guys,
fragile.
Yeah, but a lot of times, guys like they can't handle their own. They've done nothing but be the star. And now, the music stops for everybody at some point. And, Debo is a physical player. And when you're a physical player, it stops for you faster. You don't have as long a career if you run through people. And that's what he's been. Now, the interesting thing to me is that he looks very fast and explosive as a kick returner. He just doesn't look fast or explosive as a runner. And what I'm seeing is a guy that has two different speeds. When he's a kick returner and he's going north-south, or when he's a runner or a receiver, anytime Debo's going strong north-south, he looks a lot faster than when he's going east-west. And so I don't like the runs for him because almost all the runs are parallel to the line of scrimmage, and he's having to run, but he's not going full speed because he's looking for a hole, and that's just not going to be his game. I mean, he's not that fast. He can't get to the edge. I mean, like we're watching Garendo on the same plays, and he gets to the edge at will. So how does Garendo get to the edge at will and Debo doesn't? It's because Debo is not as fast as Garendo, and he's not running as fast when he's running parallel to the line of scrimmage. If you can get that angle where he's turning upfield, then I like the ball in his hands any way he gets it, rushing, receiving. But he's a north-south, up the field kind of a guy. He's not an east-west, pick a hole, find a hole, slither here. No, that's not his game. And stop running him on those plays because they're almost always either a 2-yard gain or a 2-yard loss. There's no 25-yard gains anymore.
Look, there's no way for this to sound like a compliment. I don't mean it as it, but he'd be a great CFL player. Don't they get a running start towards the line of scrimmage? Like arena football, you get a running start towards the line of scrimmage. Debo would be unstoppable.
He's good. With 3 steps, he's really good. Because you know what it is after 3 steps, it's not about quickness anymore. It's about build-up speed. And then it's about converting power to speed.
Yeah.
And he's got tremendous heft. So nobody wants to stand in front of him when he's got 3 steps. But nobody fears him until he gets to that 3rd step.
Yeah. So you see Joe says, give Debo a break. He's given a lot to the 49ers over the years. He's 28. He plays hard. Yeah, but he put himself into a conversation in a way that he shouldn't have. Like, no one was going to say this about Debo until he started flapping his gums. Here's the deal. If you're having an awesome year, if you're Draymond Green, if you got rings and a defensive reputation, I guess you can have a podcast and talk your shit. And when you have a, 4, 6, and 4 night, no one's going to really put it on you because you've established that. Debo is trying to be a celebrity sports pundit, and he's been worse at that than he's been a football player this year. So it's like, what would you say it is you do here, Debo? What is your focus of this year? Because you're not really performing on the field, and this podcast is the most going nowhere fast podcast of all time. Now that George Kittle's appearance has happened, there's nothing going on your podcast. Like you're trying too hard. You're trying to be I'm important in this league. Here's the thing, Debo, you want to know how bad you've been this year? If you have yourself on your fantasy football team, you'd be crazy to start yourself on your fantasy football team if you're looking to win fantasy football games. And that's where we are here with you, Debo. You're just not producing. So it's not me, it's you guys. It's not.
I mean, here's the other one too. It's like, where's the consistency, bro? It's like you're going to sit there and tweet something. You're going to delete the tweet. And then when you're asked about the tweet, you're like, I stand by it. Well, obviously you don't. I mean, that's what deleting a tweet usually indicates, is that you no longer stand by it. It's like, what are we talking about here? You tweeted something, you took it down, you stood at your locker, were asked about it, and said, that's what I said. I meant what I said. Well, if you meant what you said, why did you take it down? You took it down because you shouldn't have done it in the first place. You took it down because it's not a team. You're a captain of the team, and that's not a captain move.
Right. You took it down because either your dad, your agent, or someone on this team that you respect called you and said, what the fuck did you just tweet that for? Put it down. Take it down. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, hasn't the season been hard enough? Isn't the entirety of the Bay Area media up our ass enough? You're inviting them further up, up the colon. What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And
I
again,
mean, we don't. It's like I would say to him, "Hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but we don't need this right now." It's like I'm not. Debo, you're a man. I would never tell a man what to do, but you know what? As a team, it would be easier on the rest of us if you took that down, because then we don't have to make sense of you. We can just defer to you and just be like, I guess he took it down.
Guess what? There's time to talk your shit. There's time to shut your mouth. And Debo, you are firmly in shut your mouth time. And it's a shame that you didn't realize that. Luckily, Larry and I are here to help you through this moment. Just shut your mouth and go score a touchdown. I
don't even need him to shut his mouth. He can talk all he wants. It's just
go play.
Be team friendly. I mean, don't make the spot hot for Brock. I mean, why? You don't make that. There's no reason for that. And also, it's like, usually when guys are saying, "Hey, get me the ball," they usually point to scoreboard. Well, what's he pointing to? He's averaging 2.9 a carry. I already went through the yards per carry and the explosives. He's not that explosive, and his yards per carry are the lowest. So, I mean, I in some ways, I really admire the guy. I really do, because I think that he plays for the right reasons. I think there's a lot of guys who show up for themselves. I really think he's a great competitor. And why do I think that? Just because it seems like there's times when when the game's on the line where it's like, get me the ball. He's like, he like some of those kick returns in those bad weather games. Well, it's like, hey man, I want to impact this game. I want to turn this thing around. And he's had some big plays called back. I think his heart's in the right spot. I just think that, it's hard when you're the master of your universe, and these guys are, to hear a bunch of people crap on you and do nothing. You're always used to fighting back. You're always used to doing something. Sometimes you got to tuck it away and save it for game day. And that's what I think I would have said to him, is that, hey man, I know you want to go tell everybody this or tell everybody that. How about this? Don't. And just go out there on Sunday or on Thursday night and give the Rams, 125 yards of concern, as they can't tackle you. Go out there and take it to the Rams. Don't make the spot hot for Kyle. Don't make the spot hot for Brock. I mean, partially because they don't deserve it. I mean, if they deserved it, it'd be one thing, but they're not ignoring Debo. He gets the ball a lot.
How about this, Debo? This team is in a situation where if you were open, they would be throwing you the ball. It's not like Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason are you got 9 dudes fighting over just one football. That's not the problem here. They will happily distribute the football to anybody who presents themselves as open. Dude, you haven't been open. We have all of the charts and all the metrics and all of your pro football focus grades that you want to show you ain't who you used to be. Now, that's not saying that you'll never be that guy again, but you haven't been that guy all year. So this ain't the year to do anything other than just go try to play really hard against the Rams, and don't say things that could make a bomb go off in a locker room that certainly doesn't need a verbal bomb going off in it. Come on, man. Like, come on.
Joe G says Kyle's being buddies with his players is not good. Bill Walsh was respected by his team. He cut or traded players before the wheels came off. Kyle does love this player. There's no question. And like this whole, like, is Debo going to be back next year? I don't think he's going to be back, but you know what? Kyle Shanahan is the dictator of the Niner world. So it's not about a democracy or what makes sense or what, is logical or none of that. It's about Kyle's whims and what he wants. So Kyle loves Debo. So I would say Debo's chances of coming back next year are pretty good.
2 weeks
because
ago,
Kyle really loves him.
2 weeks ago, I had Matt Mayoko on the channel, Larry, and I asked him the very question, what's going on? And he said that the 49ers have restructured Debo in a way where it actually costs more to walk away from him next year than it is to just leave him on the roster.
Right. There's no, well, let's just say this way. There's no financial benefit at all to cutting him.
Right. Now, what I think you do is you bring Debo back, and you might even try to once again restructure. Can we get even more back from you here, Debo? But here's what you're not anymore. You're not the X. You're not the Y. You are among our group of receivers. But if you can't, if this offseason, if Ricky Pearsall gets better than you, that's a problem for you, buddy. I mean, it really is. That's a problem. And there's no guaranteed snaps or a position waiting for you. You're going to have to earn everything once again. But yeah, I think Debo as a third guy, I know that Brian Baldinger, he used a phrase that no wide receiver wants put on them, but he called him a gadget guy.
It's fine. That's not an insult.
Yeah, Debo as a gadget guy has lots of value. Debo as your starting wide receiver, the value's hard to see. So maybe, rethinking where Debo fits in the Niners offensive universe will get more out of him next year. But I don't know. Again, there are aspects of man to admire for sure. And it's obvious that the team feeds off of him in a way that's undeniable. They like Debo Samuel in that locker room. You can tell his teammates like him and he likes his teammates. But this was just a bad week for him and a good football game. Put it all behind you.
Maybe he needs, a lot of these guys need the, it's us against the world. If so many times players will be like, well, everybody's against me, when really everybody is for you. You're literally walking through life as people are throwing rose petals at your feet. Everywhere you go, you're being comped despite the fact you're flush with cash. Don't tell me that life is really hard. Life's not really hard. But there's something to be said for, just showing up for the W and showing up for the right reasons. And I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought, but I was just trying to say that I just kind of feel like Debo plays for the right reasons. But he just needs to play. Like, and as Niner T says, he's got good stats against the Rams. Just play, just show up and play. But he might need to be the gadget guy. You're right. That's probably his best move is to not be a every down receiver, to be more of a gadget guy. I will say this too. His teammates really do love him. He's not a guy that's like not popular in the room. He's very popular in the room. So I don't know. These guys know phonies really, really well, and they root him out pretty easily. So I think Debo's probably a pretty authentic, real guy. And I've never had any real bad exchanges with him. But at the same time, man, you got to produce. And you can't point the finger at other people and say, well, I'm not struggling. I'm just not getting the ball. Okay, well, Kittle had good numbers and he wasn't getting the ball. You don't necessarily have good numbers. So, we'll see. But hopefully he has a monster game Thursday night and carries the Niners to victory. They may need it. They may need Debo, especially if Garendo can't go. It probably is going to be Debo running the ball an awful lot in that game. That'll be my guess, because they're going to trust Debo over Patrick Taylor Jr. and Izzy Abinaconda and Keyshawn Vaughn.
Larry, give us an offensive line update. What's the latest on Trent Williams? What's going on with Banks and Barch and Brendel? Is he getting a start this week?
Well, Brendel's coming off one of his best games of the year, so he's definitely going to start at center. Banks,
I didn't mean. I meant
who?
The other guard whose name I'm totally blanking on right now.
Barch.
No, it wasn't Barch. Freaking
Banks.
Yeah, no. Dominic Pooney took his job.
Dominic Pooney took his job. Dominic Pooney started all year. I can't think of who
Right.
it was that he Zakel, Jalen Moore.
No. I
Um,
don't know. What is going on with me? Why am I blanking?
who's the other guard that we're thinking of?
What
Either
is
way,
going
here's
on?
Trent. Well, here's
Burford, Spencer Burford. Jesus.
Burford. Yeah,
God
Burford.
almighty.
Burford played well. He played well left guard.
Yeah.
But
Is he
it
starting
will be
this week?
Banks. It will be Banks at left guard. Banks is back. He's out of the concussion protocol. Banks will start Thursday night. Trent, on the other hand, I don't know. He's got the high ankle, he's got the high ankle, and he's had it shot up a few times. And now Jalen Moore's playing well. I think they're going to ride with Jalen Moore just to try to get Trent healthy. So I would say Jalen Moore at left tackle, Banks at
Jalen
left
Moore's
guard.
been playing great. He's been playing great. Keep him out there,
great.
man.
Brendel at
no
center.
problem with that at all.
Mooney at right guard, who was the highest graded player of the week. McKivitz at right tackle. I think that's what you're going to see. And, this Rams, they got Agent Zero, Byron Young on one end, and they got Jared Verse on the other end. You got Fisk inside who can rush. You got Kobe Turner. I'll give Les Snead a lot of credit, man. He lost Aaron Donald in a very short amount of time. Really built up that Rams D line without Aaron Donald, and then also has built up their offensive line in free agency. So, the Rams 2 years ago were like, they had no O-line, and Aaron Donald was in his final year. And you're looking at them going, they're screwed for the next 5 years. Instead, Les Snead rebuilt both lines in a short amount of time, and now they look like, a team that could be in the playoffs. Not this year necessarily, but in the future, maybe the immediate future. So, I was hoping the Rams and Seahawks would be down. They're not.
The Rams are now running a race of how quickly can the rest of the team, become a week in, week out competitor while Matthew Stafford has how many seasons left in him? So that's, can Stafford stay spry while the Rams are all growing around him? That's what McVay's trying to figure out. That's his Rubik's Cube right now. The 49ers are going to have a retinker the entire thing level Rubik's Cube coming up this offseason. The Cardinals probably aren't going to go through that much of a big rebuild. They feel like they're young and pointed in the right direction. And then you got Seattle having this, again, talented, interesting team around how much longer can you trust Geno to be playing out of his tits week in, week out? I don't know. The NFC West, it's weird. It's a weird division this year. Really, it really is.
Well, it's a kind of a transition thing. I mean, the Cardinals,
right. All
I
teams
think have a little momentum going.
Yeah,
I like what the Cardinals have going. I like John Schneider. I thought McDonald was. I'll say this too. I mean, the thing that gives me the most encouragement about the Niners right now is the way Seattle has changed up their team this year. They started the year with Jerome Baker and Terrell Dodson at inside linebacker. They couldn't stop the run at all. They traded for Ernest Jones IV and then cut Dodson, and they promoted Tyrese Knight, their 4th or 5th round pick, to the starting lineup. So now they have Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones IV, and they're worlds better against the run than they were. I mean, it's almost like a totally different defense. And I think the Niners might have the same kind of thing going. I mean, you put Campbell out there, they're getting roasted. If you can go to Greenlaw, if you can go to, Winters, if you can utilize some other guys, Jalen Graham had the 5th highest grade of anybody in Pro Football Focus last week. So Jalen Graham, a lot of people gave up for dead. Maybe he's starting to play a little bit. I just think that the Niners need to find a better linebacker, partner for Fred Warner inside. And hopefully it's Greenlaw, and hopefully he's back, in short order. But that's it right there. I mean, the 49ers have not been good, stopping the pass or the run on that second level. I think Campbell's been a major downgrade from Greenlaw. And if you want to see them get better, adding Greenlaw and sitting Campbell, we'll see. I mean, it had a profound effect on Seattle when they changed out their 2 inside backers. If the Niners can add a little juice at inside backer, maybe they can be a whole new looking defense. I'm eager to see what the trade of Campbell for Greenlaw on the back end is going to now look like when we see it.
You know, I endorse every word you just said. Having said all that, too, Devondre Campbell's actually played like the best 3 games of his season in like his last 3 games. It's still not good enough, right? You want to get better, but he's actually, I thought, gotten a little bit better. At least, you know, my naked eye is telling me he's been playing a little bit better, but still, yeah, you get Drake Greenlaw out there. Please do that as quickly as possible. Like and subscribe, good friends. Like and subscribe no matter whose channel you're watching on. Go support the other channel as well. Hitting a like and subscribe. We are brought to you by Sam's Chowder House here on Wake Up. And Larry, let's hop into some supers. What do we got going on? What are the good people saying?
Well, this isn't a super, but people always ask me to ask questions that are just the most ridiculous questions. Here's one. Hey, Kyle, do you ever just, or Larry, do you ever just straight up ask Kyle why they suck all of a sudden? Yeah, I mean, that would be my last question at the presser.
Here's the thing. I guess the thing is, too,
Kyle, why do you guys suck?
What's so frustrating is they don't suck. That's where the frustration of this year comes from. We can all see a decent football team lurking somewhere behind the curtain of bullshit that the 49ers have been playing behind all year. But there's a halfway decent football team. There's a much better than we've seen football team hiding in this football team somewhere. I really believe that.
Well, here it is. Look at this.
Graph the other day, Larry. It was like an alternate universe.
Look at this stat.
You know, 1 possession games. There you again. You know, the Niners have like a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, and they got the results of a 6-7 football team.
They're 6-7 with the second best yardage differential in the league. The 49ers have
that would be like being a last place baseball team with one of the best run differentials in your league.
Yeah, this is yards, not points. And that's why people say, well, what's more important, yards or points? Points. Points are more important. Points are real. Yards can tell any number of stories. But this, at this point, okay, it's December 11th. You know, we're at the back end of the season. The stats like this are actually meaningful because now you're looking at a big sample size of almost the entire season. And with almost the entire season, with 13 games in a 17-game season in the books, the Niners are second to the Philadelphia Eagles in yardage differential, better than the Lions, better than the Ravens. I mean, it's encouraging and frustrating all at once. It's encouraging that, they got a pretty good team. It's frustrating as hell that they've absolutely gagged on themselves all year, unable to win close games, unable to play special teams, unable to play any kind of situational football on either side of the goddamn ball. And they're 6-7 when they should be probably like 10-3.
Yeah, it should be a 9-4 football team. And you know what? They would have been if at any point in time Kyle decided to get special teams buttoned up. But he let that roam free and just be, they chose to be poor on special teams. And if you're asking, where the season went wrong, that's where I'm going to start my conversation. I really do. There's been some defensive struggles, but this is football. This is, guys miss tackles. I did Sorensen first year, growing pains, blah, 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 blah. Special teams we've been screaming about it since week 2.
It's special teams, but it's also, it's situational ball on both sides. They're terrible in the red zone. They're terrible in the red zone on offense and defense.
Yep.
They're red zone, third down, all these different little, the game within the game. They're bad at the game within the game.
Which is so
the thing is,
Shanahan, right? That's got to be why frustrated. That's why Kyle's aged 5 years this year, right? Because he knows that's him. That's what he does. He's supposed to make that gap up. The game within the game is the game that Kyle is in charge of, and that's even failed the Niners this year.
You're the NFL. You're not gonna. It's not college. You're gonna have to win close games, and if you're gonna win close games, you got to be good at situational ball. You have to be able to get a first down when you need it. You have to be able to put away the game when you need it. The one thing about Kyle's offense that's the most frustrating to me through, beyond this year, just looking at it through his entire tenure here, when they have to have it, when they have to put a game away in the fourth quarter with their offense, they never can do it. It's always his defense that has to shut the door. And I want to see it be their offense that shuts the door. Run the ball, build up your offensive line, be able to finish games. I mean, if we just back away from the NFL for just a second, just say, okay, well, what's the season been about this year? Look at all the best teams. Detroit's the best in the NFC. They got the best offensive line. KC's the best team in the AFC. They got the best interior offensive line. Buffalo's been one of the best teams in football. Why? Because Josh Allen is having an MVP year. And why is he having an MVP year? Because he's been sacked less than almost any quarterback in all of football because his offensive line's been great. So Buffalo's O-line's been good. Pittsburgh's got a rejuvenation behind their redone offensive line. Kansas City's got a good interior offensive line. Detroit's got a good line. Philly has rebounded from their disaster, and their offensive line is wearing teams down in the fourth quarter. The Niners have, of all these teams, they have the worst offensive line of those teams. And football, the Chargers invested in their offensive line. Look at them this year. The Eagles. I mean, all of the good teams in football are pretty much good on the offensive line.
So good offensive line it's non-negotiable. Okay. It's not something that you desire to have or want to have, or is the frosting that you put on your cake. It's the plate that your cake is served on. It's the whole thing. My high school football coach, God bless him. He didn't play in the NFL. He didn't coach college. He wasn't a smart man, but he did say something that is the most football truth thing. All football is blocking and tackling. Everything else just sells tickets. The entire game is blocking and tackling. And those are two categories that the Niners have had a lot of trouble in this year, aren't they, Larry?
Yes. I mean, the tackling especially. I mean, the tackling. I mean, what was the difference in this Bears game? I thought Afanga, adding Afanga to the mix, because Afanga's he has good instincts, and he's going to get in there and make some tackles. He made 5 tackles against the run, all of them right there in the box. So, I mean, the Niners had, I think the Niners run D has been bad, has been lacking for a couple of years, but it's been camouflaged by Fred and Greenlaw. They're just so damn good that they cover up for the rest of the team. But then when you take those guys off the field, or in this case, you take, Aziz away and Greenlaw away over the course of 2 seasons, you realize it's Fred and nothing. It was all the linebackers making all the tackles. And then you take away their two of the 3 tacklers, and now you got nothing. You got absolutely nothing. Their run D on the line of scrimmage, their defensive line, their secondary, awful. They've been leaning so heavily on their awesome linebackers. And as soon as those linebackers got hurt and backslid and had to be replaced by just average guys, the whole thing fell apart.
And the phantom broken ankle has certainly not helped the Niners defensively this year, too, with Fred Warner.
Here's the other question, and it's a bigger question, probably bigger than we can tackle in this live stream. But the other factor that nobody talks about is look at all the best teams on defense in the NFL. And what do they all have in common? They all are 3-4 fronts, and the Niners are running a 4-3 wide 9. And all the best defensive teams in football, all are running a 3-4. So should they have gotten rid of the 4-3, hired Vic Fangio as the Eagles did, and handed him the keys to the defense? They probably should have, but they love Kasarik. They love their wide 9. They love their 4-3. They wanted continuity. And so they hired Sorensen because of the continuity and being able to keep everything in the way they wanted it. But now looking at the rest of the league and seeing that the trend is to play a 3-4 defense, maybe they blew that. They might have blown that.
They might have, but this is one of those categories where I'm going to extend to them the benefit of the doubt a little bit and say that, what I've watched out of the 49ers might feel a little old hat right now, but it's worked. They've had success with it. They've gone to 2 Super Bowls with that style of defense. And you can say that that style of defense let you down in those Super Bowls. I guess there's an argument to be made about that too. But who are you when things are going right? When the Niners got the talent to make that defense operate correctly, it can be formidable. It has been. We used to, glow about how good the 49ers defense was. But when you don't penetrate along your defensive line, whether you're running a 4-3, a 3-4, whether you're running I don't care what defense you're running, what exotic blitz or front you're showing. If you don't have the horses to get to the quarterback, it doesn't matter.
Or stop the run.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the wide nine? The wide nine puts the defensive ends a step further outside than they would normally be in a regular 43 front. They're wide, right? They're wide.
They're lining up where the tight end would be, not over the tackle.
So what do you need? Like what do you need to make the wide nine work? You need tackles who are big war daddies in the middle, who are dominating their guys and can come off of tackles, because you're outside and you're setting the edge and you're funneling everything back inside. Yeah. It only really works if you have 2 things: defensive tackles that are monster, that can come off of their blocks and make tackles, and just an awesome array of second level tackling maniac machines. You need those linebackers who are just incredible tacklers, because there's lots of room. You're widening the front. You're forcing everything back to the middle. You're funneling. Your defensive ends are just getting up the field. And by doing that, they're essentially setting an edge and forcing everything back to the middle. And it only works is if your defensive tackles make tackles and your linebackers are awesome and make tons of tackles. If you have ordinary defensive tackles that can't come off of a block, which is what they have now, and if you don't have good linebackers on that second level, which is what they have for the most part now, outside of Fred when he's healthy, that's it. You're setting edges, but they're going to run right through you. And that is exactly what has happened to the 49ers. Teams have run inside of their ends between the tackles, and there's been no resistance from their linebacking core or their defensive tackles. It works with great personnel. It doesn't work nearly as well when the personnel is several steps below.
Right. And now what brought out really good games in Yetur Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd last week? If it was the Bears that did that, then you're in a little trouble against the Rams. If Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos have figured out, like, hey, Bosa's not showing up to, he's not here to put on Superman's cape. This is up to us, and we're just going to be these hard to deal with crashing defensive ends. No, that wide nine gets a little bit better. But yeah, there's
pieces. Take coordination this week. They're going to have
to fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, if you asked Sorensen yesterday about his D, he's like, man, we were good on all 3 levels. And it really was true. They were good on all 3 levels. And that's what it's going to take against this Rams team. But more than anything, it's all about the front. If Stafford feels you, he won't be as effective. If he doesn't feel you, you're cooked. He's going to throw for 350, and it's going to be stop routes that you can't stop, and little short passes, and Kyron Williams running for 2 yards and getting to 3rd and 6, and stop route to Puka, boop, up, first down. It's
right.
How many passing first downs do the Rams get?
You can make all the contact you want to within 5 yards, but you made a little contact at that 7-yard mark, so now penalty, first down, yeah. Rams.
I hate that. I hate that, especially when it's the receiver DB mesh point, and there's no hold by the corner. They're just kind of bumping up to each other, and then that's it. And they call a defensive hold, and I'm like, God, if that's a defensive hold, then you can just call that any day you want, because that happens on every single play. All right, let's hit some supers here. Fuji Simeon says, I wonder if Deshaun Watson is still getting massages at the Browns facility post-injury. Sorry to hear about your friend Damon. Who needs to show up?
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And for those who don't know what that reference is, at the end of yesterday's show, I said goodbye to a friend who passed away, and I got emotion. My emotions came over me, and I'm always a little embarrassed when that happens, but there's nothing wrong with grief. And I'm terribly sorry to have lost a college friend. Just yesterday, I found out the news that she had passed away. Thank you. Who needs to show up this weekend? This is, all the defensive moments that we just discussed. And look, Brock Purdy, this is your show, buddy. This is Brock Purdy. You need another 300-yard game. You need to be on your, 20 at 25, 24 30. Brock Purdy on it level game. That's what the 49ers need. They need Brock to be spectacular and make no turnovers himself. And Larry, we've gone over the numbers. When Brock doesn't turn the ball over personally, responsible for a turnover, the Niners are kind of unbeatable. So
undefeated in his career.
Doing that.
I would say the guy who needs to show up, I'll give you two. Definitely the Niner run game. I'll say Garendo, but any of the running backs. Their running backs have to show up and play. And then on the other side of the ball, Yatir Gross-Matos needs to pick up where he left off this last game. I mean, he's always had enormous talent, and the Niners signed him, and they were super excited that they were getting a player that they thought was just about to take off. Then he had the injuries, and he hasn't been able to take off. Man, he looked great in this last game, bull rushing, showing quickness. He's healthy. So I would say, especially if Bosa doesn't go, but even if Bosa does go, if Yatir Gross-Matos can really play a great game, that's going to be a huge one. Because if, once again, he's so big, he could bat down passes. He can affect Stafford. Yeah, if Gross-Matos shows up, I like their chances.
He can earn his entire season paycheck in the next 5 weeks, Larry, if he has good games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Fuji Simeon says LA content creators trolls say Trey would have beaten the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The Niners would have a better record. Imagine if Brock responds like Zach Wilson. LA content creator trolls say Trey would have beat the Chiefs. Trey is the Dallas Cowboys' third string quarterback. Anybody who's making any predictions about Trey beating anybody is probably either related to Trey or has some kind of deep-seated issue. Mr. Irrelevant says, Larry, if you need an electrician, call me. Local 617 at your service.
Oh, the union.
Thank you, Mr. Irrelevant. It's not that I need an electrician. I need to somehow lift a stove, an electric oven in a box over the counter and cabinets to get it into my kitchen because the doorway is too narrow because the fridge profile is too fat.
Can you roll the fridge out? Yeah. Instead of taking the front door off your fridge, can you just roll the fridge out, bring the stove in, and then put the fridge back like a Lego block?
There will have to be a little bit of a tap dance, but it can be done. The question is, we got to make sure we're putting the right stuff under the fridge because otherwise we're going to gouge up our hardwood floors.
See, this feels like it could be its own YouTube video, Larry.
Seriously. It's really bad. Mike Baker, but thank you, Mr. Irrelevant. Very sweet of you to offer your electrician services. Mike Baker says, thanks for all the great coverage during a difficult year. Hey, Mike, appreciate you. Damon, appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Bill M says Debo had too much chowder this year. He is looking a little thick. Fuji Simeon
at the beginning of the year, though, right? Like he looks slimmer, and I thought it was because he's not wearing 19. It's number 1. The number 1 is slenderizing. I don't know, but he does look like he's put on a little weight as the year's gone along. I mean, who hasn't?
I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. He's never really lean and mean. He's always built more like a running back he's got a running back body on a wide receiver position, but that's why they use him as the wide back.
Right. He's more built like a safety than he is a wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean he's thick but fast. All I would say if it was me, I would say, Debo, do you want to help this team? Tell me what you're about, Debo. Are you about you? Or are you about us? If you're about us, let's talk. If you're about you, then there's nothing really to talk about. But if he's about us, what I would say to him is, let's use you as a punt returner instead of Jacob Cowing. Let's use you as a kick returner instead of the other options we have. And let's come up with ways to get you the ball after you've run 3 or 4 steps at full speed. Let's do that. And maybe less just handoffs where you're kind of flat-footed, where you're looking to like kind of read the defense and get to the edge at the same time. That's not where he's best at. He's best when he can get a head of steam. So let's get him with a head of steam.
You saying you want more touches? Well, we put you back on special teams. It's 5-6 more touches a football game than you would have normally gotten. So there you go, right there.
Or just run him on. How about this? Run him on some go routes. Let him just go full speed down the field. Now, he doesn't have great hands, so it's like that's the other issue. But this whole like pick and slide thing, no, it's just he can't do it. He's not good at it. It's not working. Fuji Simmons' thoughts on Micah Parsons' reaction after with the Cowboys loss. Cowboys punted, and they blocked a punt, but then it hit their guy, and then the Bengals got it back.
The minute that
ultimate loser play.
The minute the blocked punt crosses the line of scrimmage, it's a live punt. Doesn't matter that there's been a block on it or not. That is a live punt, and a day one of high school special teams mistake was made by the Dallas Cowboys. Leon Lett was trending on Twitter. That's all you need to know about how bad of a special teams play the Dallas Cowboys made. And I don't blame Micah Parsons.
What did he say? I didn't actually hear what he said. I saw him, but I had the volume down.
I believe the equivalent. It basically translates to "what the fucking fuck, man." And
he wants out, man. He probably wants to be traded at this point.
Look, the Dallas Cowboys have one of the more interesting collections of talent that has not come together that you've seen in a while on a football field. They really do.
Jerry and his kid have ruined that team. He's a genius businessman. You would think that a guy who's that smart in business would be smarter in football, but it's really just his toy. And it's just like, we're all just here as he plays with his toy. I mean, it's really sad, actually.
You know, Larry, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned in life is that I really don't know shit, right? You know, like you grow up as a young man, you're arrogant, you think you got the world by the short and curlies and you know everything. And then you get humbled along the way and you realize, well, I don't know everything. It's amazing that Jerry Jones can't learn the lesson that not all good answers start and end with him. You would think at this point, you would have enough seasons of overwhelming evidence that maybe I'm in the way. But no one's got a bigger ego than Jerry Jones.
I mean, okay, it's really cool, I bet, to be able to draft who you want. It's really cool, I bet, to sit wherever you want and do whatever you want and play with your franchise any way you want. Okay, but man, after you've done that for 20 years, wouldn't you want to get back to fucking winning again?
Yeah.
You won 3 Super Bowls. So in a way, it's like the cruelest of all for Jerry, because he won at the beginning and he has been trying to replicate it without Jimmy Johnson ever since. He thought he was the big dog by saying 500 when he got drunk in some saloon and like 500 different guys can coach this football team. And then he went out and picked just some random guy in Barry Switzer, and Switzer did. So then in a way, Jerry was proven correct, but in reality, that's how great Jimmy Johnson's team really was, that he could win even with Switzer a couple years later. The reality is, it's like, I can't believe that Jerry would spend so much time devoted to wanting to see his team win. At no point do you just say, you know what? I want to see my team win and I want to play with my toy, and I don't think I can do both. So how about this? I'll just let somebody else run the show, and I'll just have great seats, and I'll sit in the war room, but I won't suggest who to pick. And, I won't demand Mozzie Smith I won't make any personnel demands. I'll just sit there and watch my guys. I mean, wouldn't you want to win after failing? I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, I want to do it myself. Okay, you get to do it yourself. You failed. After 20 years of failing, wouldn't you say, you know what? The maybe I should go back to Parcells. Maybe I should go back to Jimmy. Maybe I should go back to, guys who really knew football running my football team. And maybe I should just hang out and
the other option.
Enjoy winning.
Here's the other option that's been available to Jerry this whole time too, and he's never been able to figure out. Hire the right people, let them make the right decisions, and then you still get to take credit for it because nobody's going to say, no, that was my idea. It's not Jerry's because you're signing their paychecks. Right. So you can still be the biggest douchebag taking credit for everything if you want to, even if other people are doing it. Good God, the ego. It's just.
I mean, would you rather win and maybe get some of the credit, but not all? Like you had with Jimmy Johnson. Like Jerry got tons of credit, but we all know it was Jimmy Johnson's show. But Jerry still got credit. Okay, so would you rather win and share the credit, or would you rather lose and have it all be on you? Right. It's like he'd rather lose and it all be on him.
Would you rather spread the wealth or live in poverty? He's like, I'll live in poverty and then spread the wealth around. It is nuts. It is.
He just wants to play with his toy.
It's a little ego. It's a little old man stubbornness. Could be a touch of dementia along the way. It's Texas.
And he won't fire McCarthy because McCarthy's his buddy. And it's like, dude, how many years do you want to see your team be undisciplined and bad? And it's like, and then, well, Mike McCarthy, you can't fire Mike McCarthy because, it's like Mike McCarthy is the NFL equivalent of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is a totally mediocre owner who lucked into a Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy is a totally mediocre football coach who lucked into Aaron Rodgers. He passed on Aaron Rodgers in the draft, then went to a team that had Aaron Rodgers and benefited because Rodgers won a Super Bowl. But McCarthy is totally mediocre, and he got lucky. And Jerry's totally mediocre, and he got lucky. They're in some ways, Damon, they're perfect for each other. They're almost the identical person. And they deserve each other. Let them suck together. Fuji Simmons' thoughts on Parcells. Okay,
we did it.
Against 23. So stop muffing around. We're about to dog walk them.
I hope you're right. Here's the thing: dog walk them or win by a half a point. I don't care. Just win on Thursday.
What exactly? How would you describe muffing around?
I don't know.
That's a good one there. It sounds like a good time. Fuji Simeon says, Larry, you have 3 able-bodied sons to help you. That's true. And I joke with Kev. I say you're a system son. Jack Parada says, for the ganja jar, always great to watch y'all. Give Larry a puff or two.
There you go, Jack. Puff, pass.
Look at that, Jack Parada. If you only knew. Rob C, did I miss a countertop conversation, or was it just an oven?
I guess you got here a little late, Rob C. But yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
I'm thinking football right there. I'm trying to make sense of it.
We're all very concerned about Larry's kitchen, that oven.
So we have an oven. It's an electric oven. If you set it at 350, it's cooks really hot. It's like the temperature no longer works. When you turn it over 350, it just turns off. So it's 15 to 17 years old. So we can't find the receipt, but I think we know it's at least 15 years old. Most appliances last between 15 to 20 years. So I'm not losing my mind that our oven is done kaput at 27 or at 7, after 17 years. But so we went and got a new one, and it's great and everything, except when the delivery guys came, they're like, your refrigerator's too big to get it through the doorway. And so there's no way to get it in. So it's in the garage in a box, and we have to lift it over our granite countertops and somehow get the other one out.
You got a logistical problem.
I think I'm pretty strong, but I'm not strong enough to lift the oven.
Let's let's not focus on the oven that's coming. Let's focus on the oven that was. Thank you for your service. Lots of good stuff came out of that oven. Larry working on his on his dips and his turkeys, and Amy's pulled a lot of gems, a lot of incredible dinners out of an oven.
Some pulled pork tacos were made in there.
That oven gave at the office for 15 to 17 years. God bless that oven, and thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you. But there you go, Rob. And Rob, thanks for the 20 spot. If I knew that talking about the oven would bring in a super like that, I would have talked about it on an earlier stream.
Talking about it would be wake up with an oven. Oven wake up.
What appliances are we? What if we had a podcast and all we discussed was appliances?
Appliance content creators, like we're on Team Kenmore.
Well, let me tell you, Damon, this is a 6-burner, and
Larry, you don't know shit. If you're not buying Samsung, you are out of your mind. And it's
hey, motherfucker, it's LG or the goddamn door. All right? Do I need to say it again? It's LG or there's the door.
Look at it this way. If they lose to the Rams, this might be Friday's show. We might be talking about LG ovens after all. So beat the Rams and prevent the oven talk here on Wake Up. Fuji Simeon. Would you want Parsons on the 49ers? Yeah, at the speed of light, of course. Any team would want Micah Parsons. Guys, game-wrecking talent. IU or Notre Dame?
Okay, now this is a regional. How far are these campuses from each other?
It would take you about 4 hours to drive from Bloomington to South Bend.
Oh, it's a while. It's a ways.
Yeah. It's like
it's not Sacramento.
Bottom third. It's No. It's not like 90 minutes away. That's a long drive. You're basically driving from Bloomington to Chicago to get to South Bend.
How far is Chicago from South Bend? Because my mom used to go to games. My mom was from Chicago. She used to go in high school to like some Notre Dame games.
35 minutes up to an hour with bad traffic. Chicago's right outside of the region, which is like South Bend, Hammond area, is so close to Chicago that it's the part of Indiana that doesn't change when the region is always on Chicago time, where the rest of the state of Indiana will change its clocks according to daylight savings time. So it's close. South Bend and Chicago are close.
Cignetti is the coach for IU, correct?
Yes, Kirk Cignetti.
And he was at Pitt, was he not?
No, so he was at IU, Pennsylvania, Indiana University at Pennsylvania, not associated with Indiana University, ironically. And then he was at James Madison.
James Madison. Okay.
And that's where he got to Indiana from.
Was he ever at Pitt? I don't know, because I thought somebody
guy. He's a Pittsburgh guy.
Somebody told me, I thought Izzy Abanaconda told me that Cignetti coached him somewhere along the way. Oh. But Cignetti's a hell of a coach. But I'll say this. Really, Notre Dame has got a great coach. Marcus Freeman is a tremendous coach. Notre Dame special teams are the opposite of the Niners special teams. Their special teams are epic. They block punts, they block field goals, they make coverage tackles. Notre Dame special teams are amazing. Notre Dame's secondary is amazing. Notre Dame's quarterback is kind of underrated. His name's Riley Leonard. He's a 6'4" kid, very athletic, very fast. They have a great running back named Love. They got a tight end who's going in the NFL draft who's damn good. They got a pretty good offensive line. They got a really good defensive line. Howard Cross III is on their defensive line. He's a tremendous defensive tackle. Notre Dame is good. I mean, I've been betting Notre Dame a lot this year, and so I've been watching a lot of their games. Damon, they're good. They are really, really good. No, and this is going to be a phenomenal game because IU is legit.
IU is legit. Indiana's got an offense that you can pack in a suitcase and bring anywhere, and they've got disruptive linebackers. They really do. Indiana has
Mikhail Kamara on their D line, right? Their edge rusher. He's a monster.
It's gonna be a football game, baby. Indiana has a chance to go into
when is it?
And win this game. It's next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah. So this is the Friday game. This is the game it's in a window all by itself. This game is going to be incredibly highly rated. I think that's the first of the playoff games that we're going to get in the new playoff, and it's a Friday night. National TV, IU, Notre Dame. Man, that is going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome.
By the way, hold on.
I'm so excited about the playoffs.
This Damon guy looks like he's 80. Fuck you. 80? Your grandfather wishes he looked like this at 80. Come on. I look like I'm 80.
I don't even see that in there.
Yeah, no, it was just,
Is it a super?
This Damon guy looks like he's 80. The fuck is that?
Can I tell you? Can I tell you?
I look like a young man?
Can I tell you the worst quick story of maybe one of the worst stories of my entire life?
Hey, we got to go real quick. I got a show.
Okay. My father. This is years ago when he's still alive. He's in the hospital, and he was probably, 77 years old. My dad was born in 37. I was born in 70, right? So I go to visit him at the hospital, and I'm here to see George Krueger. They're like, oh, yes, we'll take you back. You have to sign in here at the desk and this and that. The nurse is walking me back to his, area where he is in the hospital on California Street. And she looks at me and she says, are you his brother?
Ooh. Yeah.
I said, his brother? He's born in 1937. I'm born in 1970. I was like, my mind was blown. I was just like,
I can only hope that your dad was looking particularly young that day.
No, he was looking like hell. He was absolutely looking like hell on earth. And she asked me if I was his brother. I tell that story sometimes around the family. They always laugh. They always, oh, that's hilarious.
Hey, look, I'm grayer. I get grayer by the day. There's no doubt. But this is not an 80-year-old man's forehead. There's no Botox there. That's still a wrinkle-free forehead.
If you were 80, you would be like easily dominant at the old folks' home. Yeah, I mean, you'd be picking up chicks. You'd be,
Russian gold girl puss.
How come that guy's got a keg in his room? Fuji Simeon's thoughts on Bill Belichick possibly coaching at North Carolina. Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know if he would, but it's very interesting. I'll say this: the guy who broke that story is a guy that Ollie. Forget Ollie's last name, but I worked with him. He covered the Niners from London, and he's really good. So you can absolutely take that story to the bank. He broke that story. I don't know if he'll go there, but Belichick, I always thought would kind of do something unique, and maybe going to North Carolina could be it. Bill M says, if you're worth $16 billion, hard to talk sense into you.
No doubt.
Fuji Simeon says, I love my gas stove and oven. Thank you. More oven talk.
I'm a gas stove guy too. I do like that flame. I really, really do. Hey, thank you very, very much for tuning in today. Larry and I will be back on Friday morning doing post game, no matter what happens. But literally, here's what happens. The 49ers season begins or ends tomorrow night. It is nothing less extreme than that. A reason to believe still exists, or it is over. So
let's leave with two chats here. Jordy A says Damon is a charming 69-year-old, and Steve Cass, who's always very positive, says Larry, sorry to say, you're out of shape.
Hey, who on this show is in shape? You're not here for the guys that are in shape. You're just here for guys who know how to talk. So thank you very much for all that. And thanks to Body by Sam's Chowder House for making us look this fabulous as always. Look at Sam's. I mean, just ready to go. There it is. Look at Sam's. Just gorgeous. All those nice people willing to help you out. And there it is. There's the lobster roll. Undefeated. Paella, Cioppino, all good things.
Cioppino. I would say the Cioppino. I mean, look at that thing. Oh, man.
Get yourself down. Get yourself down to Sam's Chowder House. I mean, Larry's not going to have an oven in his kitchen for maybe the next calendar year, so he's going to have to go to Sam's an awful lot to eat. Thanks very much to all of them, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. And
that's going to do it for us.
Largest football game of the entire year. Is that something you might be interested in? Because that's what's next.
Go Niners. Get the win. Join us on Friday. For Damon, I'm Larry. Have a great rest of your day. Get out there and, go ride around in a Miata. Go sign up to be a cheerleader. You go out there and do your thing, Ralph Barbieri.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, you boys, if you would just give yourselves into the vegetarian lifestyle, there's still minestrone available to you. And, you take some of that seafood out of the Cioppino. The both of you would be less fat if you were a little bit more like me.
Ralph, I like my meat and I'm very, very lean.